everyone. Once again, excited that we're doing this webinar because, like Caroline said earlier in the week, it seems the stars aligned that we were going to be discussing sustainable business models on World Environment Day. So happy World Environment Day. So to kick us off, I'd like us to think of a few things. Think of climate change, think of malnutrition, inequality, poverty, ecological degradation, and now, of course, health. Our health is threatened. All these insecurities that the world faces, many complex interrelated challenges, and it is clear, and you can agree with me, that many of our fundamental systems are broken. Unless we can deeply understand the bigger picture in which these challenges sit and face us, we will only end up mitigating problems or providing superficial solutions that will not solve the bigger risk we all face. Sustainability, of course, has long been associated with environment. However, sustainability looks at more complex issue, more holistic angles other than just the environment. Sustainability is about social, cultural values, it's about human rights, it's about economical survival, and yes, responsible environment management, amongst others. The global challenges we face are so urgent and tricky that we need a solution to match their scale and complexity. This is where today we'll be talking about systemic changes and see how, or rather get to understand how systems thinking, when we use systems thinking to understand the web of interrelations, how we can anticipate the unintended and identify how and when or where to take action. System thinking will teach us how we can see individuals, how we can see places, businesses, actions, innovations in a world where right now everything is changing. So to begin, I usually like to look at, as usual, this kind of hands. Just a moment, let me stop to share, and then we can do that again. For some reason, Zoom always hangs when I start. Not sure why. Just a moment. Share. So as always, we will look at what we'll be looking at, our content. But first we'll do an overview, an introduction of what sustainability is. To some people, I know this is their heart and soul because I have engaged with most of you. And then we'll also look at CSR versus sustainability and what is the difference between CSR and sustainability, because I still see companies talking about CSR. And then the third, we will get to ask ourselves, understand a little bit on a general overview. Where do you start when you want to make your company a sustainable, inclusive business? And then we'll also look at something I've seen very come up right now in the midst of the crisis, questions on certification schemes. Are they for you? How does it help my business? And then we'll look at sustainability communication. Remember, communication is very important to our businesses. And then also we'll look at sustainability and how it's been affected by COVID-19. And when I talk about sustainability in terms of impacts caused by COVID-19, I say you should probably look at, think in terms of the SDGs. How will corona pandemic impact the SDGs? How will we be set back? Yeah. So then we will look at what we're talking about, systemic changes, and understand that we're in a world where it's like a web, yeah, basically packed with systems, and how can we use these systems to develop sustainability in our businesses. So really, when you ask yourself, what is a sustainable business? It is defined as a business model that creates, delivers, and captures the value for all its stakeholders. And I had to highlight that here because most of us, when we talk about sustainability, funny enough, today is Environment Day, yeah? We think about just protecting the environment. We never think about the human aspect to it. We never think about the HR policies. We never think about our communication to the client. Yeah. So sustainability means that its main purpose is creating, delivering, and capturing value for all business model stakeholders while acknowledging the natural and, like I say, social limitations. Yeah. So basically, you'll be looking at, we've all heard of this term. I know we've discussed it before in the previous webinars that we've said sustainability is about the 3 P's: people, profit, planet, and how they all align together to give a holistic and wholesome angle. So different definitions about sustainability say that. One, and the most common one, is meeting the needs of present generations without compromising the needs of future generations. The other one is the ability to be maintained at a certain rate or level. And then the third, these are like the really more popular definitions, is avoidance of depletion of natural resources in order to maintain an ecological balance. Yeah. So when you're talking about balance, sustainability is about balance. I always like to think of sustainability as resilience. Yeah. It is a part where you know that I won't collapse and die. Yeah. It means that there's continuity. So if you're living in our current world, this is something you have seen. We have talked about it in the news. Recently, we are really talking about it with what's happening in the US. Number 10 has become very popular, people talking about inequalities. And of course, why the whole world is at a standstill, why tourism is at a standstill: health and well-being. And I think last week we said that one of the things that customers will be looking at is their health and well-being. So all these SDGs play a very big role in how we shape our business models, because we need to be contributing. We need to be positively, thinking of how we can develop Africa using tourism, so that it's not just tourism for making money. It's tourism that is of value. And we have continuously through the 7-part webinar discussed how can we build, how can we create, how can we generate, how can we innovate products that are of value? How can we make everybody feel that they're included in this business we're talking about? So I spoke about corporate social responsibility versus sustainability. I have looked at some of the tour operator websites, and we still have CSR as opposed to sustainability. I know most of us who are listening on this and are on the program, on the ITC program for Commonwealth, the SheTrades Commonwealth program, are currently trying to pursue the Travel Life certification. And I find it difficult when I see people talking about CSR in an age where we say travel and tourism contribute to high degradation of environment. We are dealing with communities. And I'm like, where is the holistic angle here? So when you differentiate between CSR and sustainability, CSR speaks to the business's ethical responsibilities, whereas business sustainability speaks to sustaining systems over the long run. So I mean, sustainability has an aspect of time attached to it. We're looking at a long term, not a short term. Then CSR does not speak to equity across generations. When we look at Angela's business going to give food donations at this time, that's fine. I have fed people, and it's social responsibility to take care of the local communities. But in long term, what have I done? So when you talk about equity across generations, you're saying it means it stretches farther than just now. So sustainability conveys greater ambition because it focuses on what we need to achieve rather than where we are today. So basically, sustainability also emphasizes on a common agenda for all sectors of the society, Whereas the C in CSR calls for corporate practices, which is okay. Sustainability speaks about best practice, yeah? So sustainability is a holistic concept that looks at the full range. That is the difference between CSR and sustainability. So you can have CSR, but it is a component of sustainability. Sustainability means that you're looking at things in general. Think of the 7 topics we've been discussing for the past 7 weeks. Yeah. So each of those components, is it product development, if it is pricing, if it is a mechanism, business strategy, how you're doing your model, all this should have an angle of sustainability. So basically that is what it means when we say a holistic concept, yeah? Then sustainability represents a concept that is more easily integrated into the core purpose of the business than responsibility, which is often perceived as a check or counterbalance. And I've seen even a debate on social media, and I had to air my voice out. We've seen very many hotels, airlines come in and say, oh, we'll be feeding this, or we'll be doing that. And my question is that sustainability or is it CSR? And I know one of the listeners of this webinar, we had, she's actually from Ghana, and she knows what I'm talking about.
So ungeenda tu change before ukuange kwa account.
I'm sorry, I think Caroline, can you text maybe that person to mute the microphone? So I was saying we discussed this at one point when we were talking about the difference between CSR and sustainability, charity and sustainability. And what are the ethical points when you're busy giving out these food donations, yeah? Because there's many of us, and I think at the beginning of this pandemic, I saw very many corporates rush out to, do this, and they were in the news. And I remember sending out, I think, was it a tweet? And I said, how can you be feeding so many people and you don't know what your staff are eating? How can you, what gives what, yeah? Where's the ethical point in it? So when I talk about a holistic angle, I want you to think about how you're reducing and responsibly using resources. I want you to think your HR, your staff. I want you to think your customer. I want you to think of your policies. That is what it means as a holistic angle. So sustainable tourism, over the years, it's gone changing. There's been ecotourism, so all these are angles, yeah? All these are aspects that contribute to what we call sustainable tourism. So basically what I was talking about, this looks at a bigger approach, yeah? It looks at everything using the 3 P's that I was talking about, yeah? So you have your environmental there, your environmental concern, conservation, environmental, I mean not just the physical environment or nature, I'm talking about even our wildlife, I'm talking about our marine. So all that is covered there, including simple things such as the energy that you use in your office, the water that you use in your office, that falls under environmental, the 3 parts of sustainability under the environment. I'm even talking about and speaking about the paper, the type of paper you use in your office, yeah? So that also contributes to your environment. I've seen this debate when we talk about sustainability in Kenya today is big because the law we have just enacted, or it's coming to play today, the law that we've banned single-use plastics in protected areas, yeah, which is big because it's on Environment Day and we're saying we are protecting our protected areas. Everybody is happy. Everybody in the tourism industry is saying no to plastics. But then again, I ask, how do you dispose or how do you manage your waste? Not just plastic. Think of the bigger waste. How do you manage your waste? Yeah, so that falls under environment. Then society, of course, looks at communities, it looks about the people, it talks about the people in your office, it talks about the people you interact with. This also speaks to a wider community in terms of your client. Yeah, they fall in this angle. And this economic looks at local economies. Yeah, how are you contributing to local economies? Also, of course, why are we in business? Our profits. Yeah. So tourism has environmental, economic, and social impacts. Sustainable tourism is about maximizing the impacts which are positive and minimizing the negative ones. So again, when we talk about the full angle, I want you to think what makes it better and what can we reduce or stop or not use. So sustainable tourism principles, number one, using resources responsibly. I think before I said my favorite SDG is SDG 12 because this caters for that. Reducing overconsumption and waste is number two. Number three, maintaining biodiversity. Number four, integrating tourism into planning. Tourism just doesn't happen. And when it just happens is where you see, you know, before COVID, we were talking about over-tourism. And I remember getting into a debate with someone who was saying, as a destination, Kenya, we are pushing for more numbers. And I say, that's fine, but I am having the theory, or I am imagining that when we speak about overcrowding in parks, yeah, we may not have continuous over-tourism, say comparing it to somewhere like Italy, but we do have seasonal over-tourism, yeah? So tourism means that there's got to be a plan, yeah? There's got to be a process. Then of course, supporting local economies, involving local communities, consulting stakeholders and the public, training staff. And I keep saying staff are a very important resource. Yeah, don't look at them as a liability. Staff are a resource for your company. And then marketing tourism responsibly. And the last principle is undertaking research. You need to know what works and what doesn't, because it's not guesswork. Yeah, it's not like you wake up and just say, let me try this, let me do that. That's not sustainability. Yeah, sustainability, if you go back to number 4, says there's got to be a plan. Yeah, so if you're not having a process, if you don't have a plan, if you can't measure, please don't call it sustainability. So when we speak of sustainable models, where do you start? I've always asked, do you have a business philosophy? Is that philosophy involved, represented in your business strategy? Because you can have, what I've seen is that many people have a sustainability plan, and on the other side, they have a business strategy. Yeah. So, and this point is where you focus more on your profits. And I think many marketing teams, I'm speaking to business owners here, will attest that we tend to focus on how our revenues, and we forget that sustainability is supposed to be included in this plan for it to be one. Yeah, you need to marry your business strategy and your sustainability strategy. Yeah, or rather your sustainability plan. Yeah, you need to make sure these two are married and there is no divorce. It needs to become one. The number 2, you need to align the business philosophy with sustainability by including your belief in your company mission and vision. And of course, like I said, in your strategies. You know why I say company mission and vision? Most of us have visions on our websites, on our pull-up banners, but it communicates nothing about sustainability. So can we start now, as we are talking about restarting tourism, can we start to focus on how does our mission, how does our vision communicate that we are a sustainable company, yeah? So that when people come to buy from us, they know that what they're purchasing, yeah, the products, their itineraries we're selling to them, yeah, have value, have thought out beyond just us making that commission, yeah? Because tour operators, travel agents, people think it's just a travel, they're just making their cut. How can we start to speak to them? I think the first place to start is by using your company mission and vision. Then, of course, you've got to develop your policies with a social, cultural, and environmental backdrop. That means that it's not just about profits, designing projections just based on money, how much money we will make, how much. It's also thinking policies in terms of how much energy did we reduce, how much of our water consumption reduced, how much of the SDG number 4, say education, did we contribute to the local communities? So when you're designing these policies, you've got to think deeper and richer, yeah? Because the main goal is that you're giving more, yeah? We've got to make people start seeing that tourism is not just fun and money. Tourism is about developing. Tourism is livelihoods, yeah? Tourism is hope, yeah? Because we go to these cultures, what are we living there, yeah? So we've got to start thinking wider. So when you're building this sustainable model, now that you have married your business strategy, or you're restarting and rewriting a fresh strategy in line with all the other sub-strategies. In these sub-strategies, I'm talking about communication, marketing, all that, yeah? So number one is, of course, sustainability management and legal compliance. I say this is not something you wake up and just think I will do. It is not guesswork. There's got to be a structure. And when I mean structure, I mean even in your office, you've got to have a sustainability coordinator. It doesn't matter if this person is still a tour consultant responding to itineraries, you can add this to the job description so that there is what you call flows of work, yeah? So we know that company A, the sustainability coordinator is this person, and the pillars that they're looking to fill are, say, climate change, which is SDG 13. They're looking at, inequalities, which is this SDG, like that, and they'll work through this way. So there's got to be a structure. And then before even you start on the structure, legal compliance is the bare minimum. Yeah, you cannot say you're a sustainable company and you're evading to pay tax. Yeah, so legal compliance is necessary. Then, of course, the sustainability structure and flows of work. Who will do what? Who is responsible for what? And how will it get done? And how will it get reported? Yeah. Then step number 2 is that you've got to look at your human resource policies. Human resource policies, I'm talking about employee contracts. I'm talking about living wage, I'm talking about medical, talking about leaves, I'm talking about liability insurances. All this has got to be catered in there. And somebody today reminded me, my business partner reminded me, one of the things about HR is that you've got to have a staff included policy. You've got to have an integrated approach with your staff. Yeah, what does this mean? Because when we are talking about there's a complaint, what is your complaint procedure? Yeah, some of these complaints you can air it out with your staff and they would be able to solve it. Yeah, but sometimes we just don't have procedures. We don't have a way, yeah, of passing it on. So you want to have a staff included, staff-driven kind of resource, because it makes it richer when you can imagine if I'm one person and we have another 10 Angelas in my office and they're all coming up with something. For example, when I was preparing this presentation and my business partner said, have you thought about a staff integrated approach? Now, if I didn't share that out, would I have that in my mind? No. And it is the same thing with tour companies, hotels, travel agents. You've got to have a staff integrated approach. You want your staffs to contribute. The reason why you want your staffs to contribute is because they own, when we speak about ownership, they feel that it is theirs, and that means they will want whatever they're putting forth to succeed. Yeah. So you've got to give them an opportunity. Then the other part you've got to look at is your supply chain. I think previously we've spoken about your supply chain. We've seen now with customers demanding of us to know, where is my food coming from? Yeah. So we've got to start asking, where do they source their products from? Are they local? How do they interact with the local communities? If it is a lodge that is somewhere in a park, what have they done for the local community there? Or do they just collect money and the local community is struggling? They don't even have the basic medical, things that you can think of, initiatives that you can work around. So you as a tour operator, you need to instigate or advocate for this change through our supply chain. And do you know why tour operators, travel agents are very powerful? Because you're the middleman. You control the clients coming in, and you control where the business goes to. Which lodge do you sell? Which airline do you promote? You control that. Yeah. So you're very critical at this point in influencing, or at least causing some form of change to the supply chain. We always ask in sustainability, when you're looking at your supply chain, you need to ask them, what sustainability initiatives do they do? Yeah. What do they do with their staff? Find out. Yeah. It is our responsibility. I mean, I being in Nairobi know very much. Yeah. When we talk about child abuse, and you're a hotel, there's a beach, you see a kid walking in, an underage child walking in with somebody, and you keep quiet. And your mouth goes like, I didn't see that. That's what happens, yeah? But if you start asking these questions to the supply chain, yeah, you can do a supply checklist. You can say, when they send you contract rates, you ask these sustainability questions, because it means that you're thinking further. Just by selling that tour and selling it to a sustainable hotel or a sustainable, conscious, certified hotel, it means that these checks have been done. That means you're selling value, yeah? You're thinking of the local community. So it's not just about making money and that's it, yeah? And the beauty, and what I really, really like about this craziness of COVID-19 is the fact that we've all been given a chance to make it right. Yeah, most of the times, I've always said I've been a TO, and most of the times we were either too busy with high season, too busy collecting money for BSP, too busy. We've been given a chance to do it right. Yeah, so it's up to us to make sure we do it right. So then again, the other point you need to look at when you're building your sustainable business models is your procurement policies. Very simple things. What sort of paper am I printing on? How much paper am I printing? My building, is it accessible for special needs or people living with disabilities? Those are simple things that you can actually look at. So when you're procuring, you're moving into a new business, do you ask them, how do you separate your litter? Where does your litter go? Where does the waste in the office go? How is it collected? Yeah, because you can instigate and say, okay, the person who picks up our waste goes and dumps it somewhere in a dump site, and there's a community there. You can actually say, I think now it's time for me to become a tenant. You should probably consider changing this. So these are policies that you need to think of, yeah? Or when we are giving our clients, they've come on holiday, we have clients and we're excited and we give them nice branded things. Are we buying things local? Our giver is local, yeah? Have we, what is the, you need to think, every time you take something and you're putting it out as a product or you're consuming it, you need to ask those questions that go deeper than, my food tastes good. Yeah, it tastes good, but where is it from? Yeah, how did this food contribute to making someone else's life better outside there in the community? So these are questions, again, you can see how it all aligns, yeah? So even the procurement questions that you ask also cut through to your supply chain. And then there's sustainability initiatives, and then, which usually people ask, what is that? Initiatives is the projects that you undertake, is the programs that you put up. For example, I've seen people say, I'm going to focus on making or contribute to achieving SDG number 4, which is education, and I am going to use this format, yeah? So I'll be supporting this cause. So you need to also have sustainability pillars, yeah? You cannot be doing, well, you can actually contribute to all the 7 SDGs, but I also find that if you can pick at least 2 or 3, if you can stretch further, the better. Pick something that you feel it means something to you, you have the passion for it, and you will drive it to the core, yeah? So that you will be contributing to us achieving that SDG, yeah? So you've got to ask, when I start an initiative, I am starting to work with this community, or I am starting to bring your, what is it called? Pack for something, all these initiatives that we think of, yeah? You've got to ask, fine, I am doing this, what am I meeting? Yeah? How am I making the world a better place? Thinking of the 3 Ps, and I look at, it can even be contributing to the local economies, yeah? So you've got to align and say, this is what I aim to achieve, yeah? This is what I need to or wish to attain. So sustainability is a holistic approach that considers the needs and wins for all stakeholders. I know most of you are thinking, Angela, what is needs and wins? Needs and wins is that I've always given this example. I'm going to the coast and I'm there at Fort Jesus, if I'm in Nairobi, and there's that local person, that local boy whose life has been disrupted by all the buses that I'm bringing in of tourists. You've got to think of that kid outside there, seeing these buses of tourists coming in and coming out, coming in and coming out. You've got to ask yourself, what is the impact? Sustainability is impact. What is the impact of what I'm doing? And who are the stakeholders? That's the question. I see emails now, people talking about stakeholders. Who are the stakeholders? When you develop your products, when you're restarting your business models, you're redesigning them, you've got to ask, who are the stakeholders and how do I impact them? Yeah? Remember we said that sustainability is about increasing the positive and decreasing the negative. So you've got to ask, if these are the stakeholders in this product I've developed, what is the impact? Yeah. So it's something you've got to think further. So that gives you an angle of where to start. This gives you an idea of where to start when you're building your business. But there's always this other debate of certification schemes. I have seen people take certification schemes and put up certificates, and I question. It is nice to get a certificate, and I want to highlight this, and I have done it before. It is nice to get certified, but it is more important, it is more critical, yeah, that you attain and go through the process. Remember, we said it's not, sustainability is not just something you wake up and you go like, pop, this is what it is. No. There's a procedure, and the procedure is what we've gone through. And I'm saying the third part is you've got to get a third party voice saying it is true, what they're doing is right, it does not infringe in people's right, and they're not using people. Yeah, you've put up a Travelers Philanthropy account that people only make, that you only make money off. Yeah. So basically certification schemes, the questions I get is, are they for my company? And my question is this: can you go be, like, have you ever seen in a race where somebody is racing, and then declaring themselves winners and giving themselves the award? Can you imagine if Bolt went to run, he ran, got to the end, decided I'm the winner? You can't do that. You need a third person to say, yeah, he crossed the line before. Yeah. So that is why we need certification schemes. Yeah. And there's always the next question of, how do they benefit me? What do I get in it? This is what you get in it. We've been talking about communication strategies. Yeah. And we've said right now, sustainability is a leading demand from the consumer. Yeah. So a consumer sees, for example, I coach for Travelife. Yeah. And a consumer sees a tour operator that has a Travelife logo, and Travelife is GSTC recognized. They will know what that means. Yeah. So they'll be able to differentiate you from, ABC to an operator ABC who does not have anybody saying, yes, they're doing it right. Whereas the one who has that logo there says, yes, I'm doing it right. And then, of course, there's the myth that being certified will give you more money. Sadly, I am here to break it down and say it won't. Yeah, you're the one who determines how this certification works for you. How does it work for you? Number one, the other thing I've always said is that certification schemes, if you don't know where to start, they give you a backbone. They give you a base, yeah, of where you should start, because it's a standards, and it contains standards, it's a criteria, there's a procedure, and there is measurement, yeah, because sustainability does not exist without measurement. Yeah, think of what we were just saying now. Bolt running by himself. Yeah, who gives a measure? Yeah, how many minutes did it take? You can't start saying, "Oh, I have contributed very much." What is the measure? Yeah, so you need something, a process, a plan, and metrics. Yeah, so that is what I would term as the real value of certification, because it gives you an outline, it gives you a process, and it's got standards that, that others have tested. And you know that I'm not competing just by myself. It means that I'm getting to this level because, number one, I'm conscious, Number two is because of this. And number three, I need to improve that. So certification schemes are not there to make you more popular. They're not there to, when you get that certification, it doesn't mean you'll get more money. But how you use it in your communication, how you use it in your marketing is what will benefit you. Those, the profits that we talk about. When people talk about sustainability, they want to close their eyes and act like, oh, we're only talking about environment and the people. But the fact is, you're still in business, yeah? So you still got to make money. But what I'm saying is that this is something that gives you a base, yeah? Currently in the country, I have seen Ecotourism Kenya really push for companies to get into Travelife, and they're like, you guys need to do it. Seriously, it could be Travelife, could be any other certification scheme, but it just means that you've got, the bare minimum, yeah? You can use that as your base, your foundation to actually build all these things we're talking about, because even that procedure I was talking about, the process, this one's, yeah? All this is contained in the different certifications, yeah? So you want something that at least is recognized, and people understand what it is, people relate to it, yeah? So then again, you've become certified. I've spoken about communication, and I've said this is key. So when I talk about sustainability communication, one thing I have learned is that so many of us do so much good. So many of us contribute to a lot of positivity in terms of the environment, in terms of conservation, in terms of the wildlife, in terms of our marines, in terms of, our historical sites. there's so much good we do, but we do not communicate it. And communication, I mean internally and externally. Do you remember my first point when I said you've got to have a structure? Because once you have a structure and how your sustainability flows, then it means everybody in your office will be conscious of what you're doing. I have gone to hotels who have said, yes, I am certified. And if I ask the staff, do you know why you have that that certificate there on the reception? And they go like, we were given because we were awarded. And I'm like, why were you awarded? Yeah. So internal communication is crucial for sustainability, because again, you get your staff buying. And when I speak about sustainability communication internally, I want you to think of in terms of advocacy. I want you to think in terms of training. How do you bring in your sustainability angle in your itineraries? Yeah, we're always doing flamboyant itineraries, yeah, and saying, I have sent the client my, I don't know, Ghana, if you use Wetu and the likes to make your digital itineraries, and we go like, I've done my digital itinerary and I have used very heavy English words that will make this client want to buy from me. Yeah, but you're busy saying you're a sustainable company. Where is the communication in your itineraries? Yeah, where is the communication on your website? Where is the communication on your social media? Yeah, so these are things we need to think about in terms of sustainability. And then you remember when we were talking about third-party checks, third-party verification is not just for the certification schemes. Third-party verification also means you've got to have a reporting structure. You've got to have a public report that's been published, yeah, or shared with the media. You've got to have at least a consistent one. Either it drops annually, most of them come out annually, and we've seen corporates actually come out to say, this is what we've done. For the Kenyans, one of the companies I've seen that communicates or rather do public reporting for their sustainability, or rather two that I've seen is James Finley and the other one is Safaricom. And they come out very clear with what they want, what they've done, what they're supporting, and why they're supporting it. How did they collect the money to support those initiatives? You need to be able to publicly report so that it is clear, yeah? It is out there in the public's domain, because there is nothing that gives guarantee as the public saying it is true. These people actually do that, yeah? So whereas it is nice to have the certification say, yes, they're certified, but you also want people to go on TripAdvisor and say that it's not just on their website. Actually, I experienced this. You know, this is the type of accommodation they booked for me because this is in their belief. Yeah. So sustainability needs to be included in your internal and external communication. You need to remember sustainability in your marketing strategy to uniquely identify your brand as a responsible brand. I should have highlighted that, because uniquely identify your brand. Yeah, we're talking about a tourism restart. A tourism restart basically means that everybody, we have said one of the key things, number one, we looked at them last week. Number one, consumers will be looking at health and safety. Number two is sustainability. So if your brand cannot be identified as a sustainable brand, do you think those customers will purchase from you? Will they? Because that is now not a, by the way, it is a need. It is a, you know, the consumers are aware, they are conscious, they are awake. Question is, are you awake? Can we identify your brand as a responsible brand? Yeah. When we see it, can we say, oh, those guys actually take care of this, or those guys have contributed to this? Can we say that? Yeah. That is what we need when we speak about building responsible brands. So again, I want to highlight and say you've got to monitor, you've got to measure and evaluate your performance. Just the way we sit and evaluate our sales, we sit and say, this is the target we are setting for this quarter. A sustainable company will do the same. A sustainable company will actually go ahead and have measures and evaluate their performance in terms of sustainability. What did we achieve? What did we do wrong? What do we need to do right? And how do we go about it? So those are constants. So if you're saying you're contributing to the achievement of the SDGs, you've got to have a measure. So now we're in times of the pandemic, yeah? And I saw this, it may not be so clear, but when Caroline sends out the slides, you'll be able to look at it. And this was just giving, the UN was kind of thinking of how will COVID impact the SDGs, yeah? I think one of the wins is climate change, SDG 13, because of course, all of us have stopped flying. The vehicles are packed at home, yeah? But there's certainly others that have hit a blow. Of course, we'll see now rise numbers of poverty because obvious, all the job losses. We will see hunger. Number 3, already we are seeing it with COVID. Yeah, education. There's now countries are starting to feel the effect. Coming from where I sit in my country, you start to see the divide where there are those students who can actually learn online, and there are those ones who are not privileged as such to learn online. So that means the education is at a standstill. So when we speak about meeting SDG number 4, now all government stakeholders are questioning what is the quality of education, yeah? How is it better? And of course, in the news, we've seen SDG number 10, we've seen inequalities. So this pandemic will have serious impacts on our SDGs. And when we are restarting and we are replanning and we are redesigning, all that, we've got to start thinking how will be the impact. Now that this has been sent backwards, how do I contribute positively? So we've been speaking about different systems, and we are basically saying that for sustainability work, there's got to be a systemic approach. So what is a systemic approach? This is a process used to determine the viability of a project or procedure based on the experiential application of clearly defined and repeatable steps and an evaluation. Basically what I've been saying, sustainability talks about there's a process, there's a system, it can be replicated, yeah, there's repeatable steps, and you can evaluate. So the goal of a systemic approach is to identify the most efficient means to generate consistency and optimum results. Remember, our main goal here is to impact positively and reduce negatively. So if we're talking about this, there's got to be consistency, we've got to be able to measure, and we've got to get the best results. So basically, when you think of sustainability, this is what I want you to do, yeah? Think of a spider web. You see how it is connected? That is how our system looks like in tourism, yeah? I want to base it from just tourism, yeah? And when you think of this SDGs, yeah, sorry, oh, it's further up. When you think of the SDGs, yeah, I want you to think of that web. You know how I spoke about that kid in that community, that woman who brings the food, yeah, that IT person, yeah, developing a technology that now people can just check in without touching their hands anywhere because we're looking at. So think of that system. Yeah, and this is what we refer as a systematic approach. You're using the systems that we have to make it better. Yeah, so a system is a configuration of parts connected by a web of relationships towards a purpose. So it can be an ecosystem, for example, and you think further wider. but systems can also be organizations or even the whole economy. So in your organization, think of your systems. The first email you get, how you respond to it. I want you to think further on the impact. You know what we've been talking about when you look at your supply chain, your accommodation, what are the systems there? And then think of it, like I said, like a spider web, yeah? So a systems approach shifts the focus from individual parts to how the parts are organized, recognizing that interactions of the parts are not static and constant, but dynamic and fluid. So things are moving in that web that we are talking about. And that's the way you should think about it. It's not about sustainability is there, and then my business strategy is on this side. I want you to think, like I said, marry them. It is one now. Yeah, that whole system is one. There's not two webs. We don't have two spider webs on the side, one for sustainability and another one for your business. It's got to be one. Yeah, so systemic change is where relationships between different aspects of the system have changed towards new outcomes and goals. So there's got to be goals, there's got to be what you need to achieve, and there've got to be outcomes. Yeah, you can't keep doing the same thing over and over again, over and over again. And that is why through this 7-part webinar, we've been calling on you to think or rethink of what you've been doing, what has worked, what hasn't worked, and how can we make it better. In terms of impact and value, how do we contribute positively? So there's this question where I always find very hard to answer. What are the components of success in terms of sustainable tourism? Number one is that sustainable success varies from every company. As much as there's a measure through the different schemes that we spoke about that you can use to build your strategies, or you can use as base to start upon your sustainability. Yeah, sustainability is a journey. Yeah, there is no one point where we'll reach and say, yay, now the world has no, it would be great. But do you really think we will get to one day where we'll say there is zero poverty? Everybody is just happy, middle class, rich, and we are all okay. So sustainability is a journey and it is continuous. Number two, community well-being is non-negotiable. This also I highlight, non-negotiable. You cannot have a sustainable business model or a sustainable conscious company and the community's well-being is ignored or kept quiet. If you're dealing with any suppliers that ignore the local communities, forget it. That's not sustainable. Yeah. Then the third, we spoke about this in the beginning, holistic approach, social, cultural, environmental, economic. When you're building it, you've got to think in those lines. Number four, metrics and standards are key. You cannot tell us unsustainable and you do not have a measure. You've got to have a measure. Yeah, you've got to have a measure that says, you know, and have a plan. Yeah, have steps. These are the standards. Yeah, and number five, collaborations and partnerships. If you noticed, we spoke about supply chain, we spoke about procurement. Where do you buy your paper? Those are collaborations, partnerships. Yeah, then think wider. Yeah, in terms of now all of us have come together through the ITC SheTrades Commonwealth platform. That creates something, yeah? So if I didn't have that relationship with them, yeah, that means that this webinar would not exist. So think of the very basics in terms of collaborations and partnerships. Think of your local BSOs. I mean, in Kenyan context, I think of ecotourism, yeah? How can we push to have more conscious, more sustainable properties, lodges? Ghana, what can you do? Yeah, so you've got to think of these collaborations and partnerships because we have a Swahili saying that 1 + 1 basically it means that this one brings something small and this one small, it becomes big. Yeah. So if you put it together, yeah, it actually grows into something. So it's got to be collaborations and partnerships have to work. And there's a reason why when the SDGs were designed, SDG number 17 was there, because all the other 16 SDGs will not work if SDG number 17 is non-existent. Yeah, so partnerships and collaborations are a must. Thank you very much. And in closing, I would like to say this, yeah? For those of you who have interacted with me before, you know that I live and breathe sustainability. It is something I love to speak to. You can wake me up in the middle of the night and I'll talk about it. But as I was doing this presentation, I asked myself, Angela, why? Why is sustainability so important to you? Why is it so dear that when you think of sustainability, it makes your heart beat? And for me, that thing is because I could resonate with it because of survival. Yeah. All our lives, we have had to survive something. I've had to survive something. You now having to survive, Corona, to keep your business running. So if each one of us takes this as something that will give us that lifeline, it will give us that, that survival, it will give us that tomorrow because we responsibly used it and then we'll be saying that there's actually something rich and of value coming out of it. So in recent weeks, we have been put to test, and even though we see destinations opening up, we all know the disruption is real. Yeah, the world has been put to test by the pandemic, and as tourism industry, we have been boxed out in a corner. Yeah, we all know that. But because we're down doesn't mean we will not stand up. Like I said in the beginning, sustainability is resilience, and tourism is a resilient industry. We need to develop businesses that consider all the stakeholders and the impact that each and every of these stakeholders have in this web, the spider web we are talking about. We must make a difference and do things right. I have been constantly saying it is an opportunity to restart and do things right. Yeah, we must build better, responsible, conscious businesses that involve all stakeholders, and genuinely, this can only be achieved by sustainability. So Caroline, over to you. I wish you all a happy World Environment Day. And remember again, just besides being the Environment Day, there's the penumbral eclipse today. I think in Nairobi it should be around 8:45. So take that picture and remember, ask yourself, how can I contribute responsibly this time round? Yeah, you're down, but you've been given an opportunity to stand. What will you do? So Caroline, over to you.
Thank you so much, Angela. So now I'm going to open up the webinar for questions and answers. I see we already have a few questions via the chat function, but I'll open up now for those whose microphones are working. You can just unmute yourself and ask any questions that you have. Okay, then I'll just kick off with Francisca's question. She's asking, Angela, could you please give us an example on a local tour company that practices sustainability for their benchmarking? Because to her, the two, CSR versus sustainability, are confusing.
Hi, Francesca. Thank you, Caroline. So I think, Francesca, you can check with Ecotourism Kenya. They should be able to give you the companies that are, so in terms of tour operators that have been sustainably certified, there is a program that has been running called the Green Tour program, and one of the aims is to make sure that companies do get certification. And I think you can speak to Grace and team, and they'll be able to give you some company best practices and what they're doing, and you can use that as benchmark. Caroline?
Okay, I see a few comments. Let me see if first there's any questions. So I would also like to hear from Barbara. She mentions that some restaurants and hotels have started supplying carbon emission values with a menu or for their operations, and that they can include these certain requirements in their contracts as sustainability criteria. So Barbara, would you be able to just explain more on your point that you made?
Hi everybody, this is Barbara. Listen, yeah, so what we do see is a move basically to respond to the demands of customers to be more sustainable, yeah? So I haven't seen it in Kenya yet, I think, but I've seen a number of examples all over the world where, for example, you have a menu and you have a dish, and next to the dish you have basically the carbon emission that has been used to produce this meal, yeah? So this is basically to show consumers that you're very aware of what you are doing and that you're looking in terms of implementation, how you can reduce your carbon emissions, yeah? You see the same in hotels, and there are a number of examples. I'd need to look them up. In terms of the supplier contracts that Angela mentioned, I think the one thing is you can't just go to your suppliers and say, hey, you know, show me that you're sustainable, and then we'll take that up, yeah. I think what is really important is that interaction with the suppliers, in terms of also supporting them and saying, where are your issues, where are your challenges, can we support you in becoming more sustainable? Because like that, you're also engaging them more, yeah, which is a richer, let's say, relationship. And at the same time, you know, you're creating more loyalty. This, when you are negotiating your supplier contracts, could be something that you can also include in those supply contracts, yeah, and that you have certain requirements in terms of, you know, is it local supplies? Is it this? Is it that? You know, so there are ways of ensuring with your suppliers as well, and it's a question of negotiation and I think mutual support in becoming more sustainable. Yeah, like this, you're basically also playing into this whole idea of circularity, because now you're looking at your suppliers and you see how can we work together, who can we bring on to basically respond to certain requirements that are set or certain things that I want to do. I hope that helped.
Thank you so much, Barbara. Angela, would you want to, do you have anything to add on top of that?
I think she's actually spelled it out very well, yeah?
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we also have another comment from Emily, and I'd also like her to just expand on her comment. First, she mentions that the IMO and they have experience with travel life and fair trade tourism. Here, the consumer is not guided by any recognized certifications, but there is value for sustainability and certifications from a B2B perspective, as this makes a business a preferred partner or supplier for potential tour operators or partners. Emily, do you mind just providing more insights on your comment, please?
Yeah, hi everybody, can you hear me?
Yes, maybe just increase your volume.
Okay, hang on, let me just move around. You should be able to hear me now.
Yes, yes.
Okay, yeah, my comment was just more linked to the work I've been doing auditing for Travel Life in the Netherlands and working for Fair Trade Tourism in South Africa. And we've done a lot of training on what is the value of getting certified, both in Southern Africa and here in Europe with tour operators. And even the GSDC, who is sort of the, you know, the overarching body harmonizing all the certification schemes around the world, is pretty much clear on the fact that the bigger value of certification is very much on the business relationship. So if you want to find tour operator partners in Europe, certification can give you that edge. If you purely want to do it from in the hope that you're going to attract more consumers or more bookings from guests, then it's you know, that's not something we can deliver on from a certification perspective. So if you do it because you really believe in it. It's going to help you get your ducks in a row, and it's potentially going to give you some more interesting business partners going forward.
Caroline, I think just to, I think Emily, I should give you a high five, because most of the people ask, what is the value of the certification? And I usually say, so long as you're doing it right, so long as you're doing the process right, and your procedures are right, and you know you're contributing positively, that's already a win. And the fact that you're going to be dealing with, or you're going to get links to like-minded people, it means that your sale will be much easier. Yeah, it'll be much easier to convince somebody who understands the do's and don'ts than someone who doesn't. So when you look at it in terms of economic value, you're very right. Yeah, those linkages of working with a community that understands why you're doing it and why it should be done gives you a stronger position in terms of even economic value. I agree. Caroline?
Thank you both. We have a really interesting question from Stella. So she's asking, she first makes a statement that they separate their waste in the hotel, but the municipal council mixes it all up on collection. So they have no other option for sustainable waste collection. How do they deal with that?
Hi, Stella. Thank you for your question. One of the things about sustainability is I spoke about advocacy. Yeah? So steps number one is always looking for alternatives. Yeah, is there an alternative for somebody to collect your litter other than the municipal? For example, if you're in Nairobi, I know there's Takataka solutions. So at least take your litter, separate it, and they have different procedures. So slowly by slowly, we are starting to see companies that are coming up with better waste management solutions. So that is, you can look at alternatives. Then number two is always advocacy. Yeah, have you written to your municipal to say, hey guys, we can think of doing this differently? Yeah, I know some of these people, it is very hard for them to do it, but I'll give you an example for one of the companies I have coached for and I've seen is that they went and spoke to their building manager and said, I think we can change who collects our litter. Yeah, the person who comes and collects our waste. Let me put it that way. So what happened is that they influenced a whole block to start separating their litter because they found somebody who was conscious, or a company that had better waste management practices and solutions. So number one is either you look for alternatives. If there aren't any other alternatives, number two is you can try and push. Municipal council is not easy. I know that because I'm Kenyan, yeah? So, but showing that you actually tried to do something is better than just sitting and not doing something, yeah? So I'd rather you write to them and try to advocate for better practices, or instigate, or, you know, bring up that question than keep quiet, yeah? Because keeping quiet doesn't solve the problem. You'll find you will ask, then probably another 5 people will ask, and sooner or later, they will start to figure out, you know, these people are asking, so what can we do, yeah? And I always say something very important, especially when you're dealing with governments, yeah? at this point in Kenya, we've seen, because we have a devolution government, I don't know how it works in Ghana, we've seen that different counties want to show that they're better than the other. Yeah. So you'll find you probably send that to them and they'll run with it because it means they'll become, you know, a better county, you know. So maybe try sending it out, try advocacy, try reaching out to them if you can't find an alternative. Caroline?
Thank you, Angela. Let me see if there are any more questions. So Stella confirms that even though unfortunately there may be no alternatives, they will definitely work towards advocacy with the council. So thank you for giving her that insight. I would also just like to open up the webinar maybe to the companies that are going through the Green Tour program or Travel Life certification, any challenges as a business that you have encountered trying to practice sustainability, or the opportunities that have come up because you're practicing sustainability. It would be really good to get your insights on this. So maybe can I call on Cindy Nordemir? Hi, Cindy. Hello. Okay, I don't think she can hear very well. Would anyone else like to make any or provide any insights? Hi, Mary.
Hi, sorry. I unmuted myself and kept quiet, waiting for you to call out.
Okay.
We are in the process of working it out, and the challenge that we are getting is documenting, because most of these things, and maybe this could be a call to the other companies, you should try and document as much as possible. Whatever you do, if it's not documented, then you cannot be able to say that this is what I did. And from Angela's, so sorry, I live next to the airport, and therefore that is common to me. So what I'm saying is that documentation, as Angela has put it, there has to be a third party certifying that this is what you did. So as much as possible, when you do something that is related to sustainability, and let's learn to understand the CSR versus sustainability. If you're working on something sustainable, ensure that you attain the right documentation to support your case to the third party. Thank you. Caroline?
Thank you, Mary. Angela, do you have anything to add to Mary's point?
I think Mary has brought it out very right, yeah? You can't be saying you're doing something if there's no proof. We need to document, we need to, and that's why I spoke about under communication. I said, there's got to be reporting, yeah? And there's got to be a public report that says, this is what we've done and this is what, you know, we have seen. So this is definitely a key point. And this is a key point, especially for all the African countries. We need to be able to document, we need to show best practices so that others can also emulate and learn from it, yeah? So besides just transparency and credibility, you could serve as the change that somebody wants, yeah? Somebody can draw strength from what you've done and they can make it better, because our aim at the end of the day, all of us who are advocating for sustainability, is better practices and a better life and a better world for each one of us, all the stakeholders. Caroline?
Thank you, Angela. I see that Liz has her microphone unmuted. Hi, Liz. Do you have any insights to share?
Yes, sure. Thank you so much. I wanted to mention that I think a big challenge is about the rampant greenwashing that's in the sector. And when you need to call them out for greenwashing, it's not taken very kindly. And that doesn't help the cause for sustainability for the sector. Carol?
Thank you, Liz. I'm handing over to Angela.
So Liz, I think you also deserve a high five, yeah? And like I said, I've seen so many of us wanting to say, you know, now because especially in Kenya, yeah, the plastic ban is today and everybody has something nice to say, my company, my what. But the thing is, sustainability has its checks, yeah? You can do that today, but what about tomorrow? There's a difference between charity, there's a difference between greenwashing, and whoever can show us that this will be going on for the next 3-5 years, yeah, you'll be contributing to development, yeah, in those 3-5 years, then that person can say, you know what, I have a sustainable plan. But for those people greenwashing, because, and like I said, even with the certificate, you don't want to have just a certificate because, you know, I'm Travel Life certified, but what have you done, yeah? What have you done that contributes to that change, that contributes to that very much needed, you know, development, yeah? So it is good today, yes, you've done as a social responsibility, or you could call it a charity, and then you say it's sustainable. That now accounts for greenwashing because you're looking for publicity. I've seen so many, sorry to say, publicity stunts. That's what I call them. People saying, oh, we have done this, we're a sustainable company. No, you're not. Yeah, we need to draw the lines of where sustainability is and where greenwashing is. But the difference is this. If you understand sustainability and you understand the process, you will be very easy to know that this is a greenwash. This is not real. Yeah, you're only doing it for show. You're only doing it for the cameras. Yeah, for the media to report that you did it, to give you a bit of, you know, PR mileage. Yeah, but the question is, who are you really lying to? You're lying to yourself. Yeah, because whereas company A will be starting from scratch and rebuilding and working to make it better, you'll have done one act and you will go. You know, you'll be there shining with your certificate, but there's somebody who will have something so heavy to show what they have done for. So in the long run, who are you lying to? You're lying to yourself. That's what greenwashing is. You think it's, I usually call it instant wins, but not long-lasting wins. And remember, sustainability is about survival. So you'll fool us now in the media, but in the long run, people will start to ask, didn't they say, didn't they do? How will you react to that? Whereas the person who really started from scratch, people will be talking about it. Think in this age of social media, yeah? Now it's nice. You don't have guests in your premise. You don't have guests you're sending on safaris or outside there. But when they come, those people will go to TripAdvisor, they'll go to Lonely Planet, they'll go to all these online platforms and they'll say, it's a fake. How will you refute that? You'll start saying, oh, these people want to damage my name, but people will see it. Remember, sustainability is the business of people. Yeah, it is the business of people. So the people will be so quick to see it. And that is where we go wrong. I keep saying it is a small win because you'll get the media to write about you today, but what about tomorrow? Yeah, remember, we're building businesses that think of tomorrow. We're building businesses in terms of sustainability so that we can survive. Like I said, the reason why for me sustainability is everything I do is because I need to survive. I have always had to survive. So even if for your businesses, if you want to survive, you cannot fake it. People will see it. Yeah. So when Liz talks about greenwashing, shy away from greenwashing. And I've always said, call me. You know, Caroline, you always send emails out after every webinar and you say, this is Angela's email. Call me and say, I don't want to greenwash anymore. Show me how to do it. Yeah. Because there's a way it's got to be done. So you can't wake up and fool people anymore. People are conscious, their eyes are open, their ears are open, and we are watching. So when you claim that you're a sustainable company and you know you're not, you know you're only doing it for PR, you know, to look like the cool kid on the block, remember, our eyes are open and our ears are open, and you will be called out, not even by us, who are maybe, you know, in the same business as you, you will be called out by your own clients. And there's nothing bad as that, because that will damage your whole reputation. It will cause a big problem for your brand. Yeah. So greenwashing, people, and I repeat, our eyes are open and you've got to call it out. So I relate to what Liz is saying, Caroline. Yeah. When you call it out, people go like, oh, why are you saying that? Why? But sooner or later, the people will talk. Sustainability is about the people and the environment, and these ones are speaking loud and clear. Caroline?
Thank you, Angela. So I think we may have one more question, and then maybe Barbara may have something to add, because I see her, she's first on the list from the participants list. So just going back to Stella, she first says that for Travel Life certification at Kiwi Resort, they have reduced their electricity and water expenses. However, one of their challenges has been having a Travel Life coach to guide them through the audit obligatory requirements. And since you're a Travel Life coach, could you also just give us that aspect of the auditing process and how businesses can be better supported?
Caroline, I think I'd like to throw that question over to Barbara, because Barbara is working closely with the ecotourism team under Green Tour, which is handling currently the Travel Life. However, as a Travel Life coach, I'm sure we can discuss it with Barbara, ecotourism, and see how we can better give you a good solution and one that's lasting, and in terms of coaching you as well. So maybe Barbara can speak about that. Barbara?
Hi, everybody. Yeah, so basically, well, thanks for giving me the floor. As I said, the Green Tour program at the moment that is running in collaboration with Kato and Ecotourism Kenya, one of the big components is obviously the Travel Life certification, which is still accessible for all Kenyan tour operators at this point. Yeah, so if you're interested in certification, use that time to register, because up to certified level, actually it's under the Green Tour program, actually at no cost. Yeah, and in terms of the coaching, yeah, so this is really good bringing that to our attention, yeah, because the requirements for the audits are obviously strict, yeah. So if you find that in terms of coaching, you need a better support, please let us know so that we can basically add on to the coaching for you and the specific requirements. I mean, I'm also always, I'm an auditor myself, so I can always also happily provide some support there. Yeah, but it's also important if you say you have some challenges on the coaching, please let us know. I think just to also reiterate, there are many ways of becoming more sustainable, and I've heard from various people, they said, well, I'd love to, but I don't know how to. Yeah, I think in these days, in terms of connection. There are many ways. I've posted a couple of websites, for example. One is Grounded, for example, in Kenya, which is doing natural products. Yeah, so there are ways of replacing. Yeah, sometimes you will also find that going more sustainable in the first run may be at a higher cost. Yeah. But again, reiterating what Angela said, we have to keep that long-term vision in place. And actually, if you do your calculations, you will find, I think Liz pointed that out, you can actually save cost, yeah, in the medium and long term. And with the growing demand, as we see now coming out of the COVID crisis slowly, this demand has risen, yeah. Mary, you mentioned, was it Liz? You mentioned the greenwashing. I agree. I mean, certification schemes are always controversial, yeah. And I think I'd fully support Angela's argument. This is not something that you do just for showing the, for example, a Travel Life certificate. This is something that you do to improve your business model. Yeah, to basically be better able to sell. Yeah, there's a definite economic, social, and environmental added value to your business model. Yeah, so for me, if you have questions regarding Travel Life, if you have challenges with Travel Life, I'd be very happy to be contacted so that we can sort this out and for you to get the right support.
Thank you so much, Barbara and Angela. If you don't mind, I'd also just like to open up to the companies in Ghana. I would want to know what the experience has been like with sustainability or having inclusive supply chains. So calling out to Christina or Cindy, Comfort, Na, Alyssa as well. Hi, Christina. Your microphone is unmuted, but we can't hear anything. Now, yes, now we can.
Okay, our experience with sustainability as a company is that we have gone through the process of certification through Travel Life. The challenge we have working with introducing it to other companies is that it's not a widely known concept of working. And so people see that you are certified locally, but it doesn't really mean anything to the local provider here as of yet. So we realize we still need to do a lot of education and sensitization on the concepts of sustainability. People need to understand and align themselves with the concepts before we can take it off to the next level. So that has been like our experience as Absa Tours.
Thank you, Christina. Is there a way to advocate, maybe with the associations in Ghana, to advocate for sustainability, to make it more well known and more well understood?
Caroline, maybe if I can just add my voice to that.
Please do.
Even in Kenya, when the concept of tour certification started, yeah, the only kind of rating that people were mainly knowing was the ecotourism rating for facilities. And then now we started talking about sustainability and moving beyond just, you know, the way I said, sustainability is a whole round, includes all the ecotourism and all the rest. So one of the ways that I think the Ghana team can use is that when they look at the, you know, remember we spoke about supply chain, yeah? So start using advocacy so that you you look for a common ground, yeah? For example, the hotels will send you the rates saying promote our hotel, and then you can go back to them saying, that's fine, but we would want to introduce you to this concept because this is how we'll be using. Consider doing 1, 2, 3, and you can give 3 or 5 things and you can just make them aware, yeah? So once they start being aware, and you can now use, because you're selling their property as ground for negotiations, yeah? So you've got to be smart, because for most of the people, when you talk about sustainability, they think it is a lot of work. It is certainly some sort of work, but businesses are geared to think more about the money. It's how I make the money. I want more money. So you've got to find those angles. And I remember as a tour operator, there's one specific domestic airline that I said, you know what, I'm reducing my sales and moving to XYZ because they have listened to my sustainability and they're practicing 1, 2, 3. That caught their attention, yeah? And they've been working towards making themselves a sustainable company, yeah, or rather a sustainable airline. So you've got to look for angles that will make them listen to you, because at the end of the day, it's thinking about the greater good, yeah. And you can't be developing a greater good without them, yeah. So again, it's about collaborations and partnerships here. It's working with your supply chains. So number 1, I think, start with advocacy, like I was telling Stella before. Start with advocacy, then after advocacy, you can start now putting in, let me say, soft conditions, because you'll not even under Travel Life, I know Ghana also doing Travel Life, there's a part in the criteria that talks about the conditions. What are your contract conditions, yeah? So you've got to start giving conditions. If you want me to sell your property, I expect this to be done. So when you find, for example, you've got 10 companies under Travel Life or under SheTrades Commonwealth that are saying this, then the pressure slowly starts to build. So sooner or later, they'll notice that now with the pandemic, it's not just you asking, even the other consumers are asking. So you see, slowly by slowly, the pressure starts to amount. Then they'll be required to actually comply, or they'll start to change. When they start asking the questions, what are you talking about? What is this? It means you're starting to get there here. So that's always a first step. Caroline?
Thank you, Angela. I'm going to just ask for one last round of questions and then we can conclude. Would anyone like to add anything else?
Can I just jump in one more time?
Yes.
Just from experience, when I worked in Myanmar, now Myanmar is an emerging destination, so that's different to Kenya. But what happened there is we were pushing very hard in terms of advocacy and really trying to engage with the tourism sector, specifically hotels and tour operators, to push, especially in the supply chain, of having alternative products, for example. And interestingly, what happened there is that I think at the beginning there were like 3 or 4 suppliers, you know, for example, for bamboo straws. But what happened within basically a period of a year or 2 is all of a sudden there were over 20. Yeah, so it's also a question of demand. So as basically Angela said, advocacy is really, really important. Putting pressure, soft pressure is important, but also working with your suppliers, because maybe sometimes they are not aware. Now, sometimes one way, and this is something that has been discussed a lot in tourism circles throughout COVID, is can there also be a collaborative approach? Yeah. So if you're a small tour operator, there's not a lot you can do, but you're interested in advocating or providing advocacy for a certain thing. Are there other tour operators who basically want the same thing? So you basically collaborate together to put like communal pressure up, yeah, Now, associations are often a tool that can be used, a means to basically push for this, but it doesn't necessarily happen that associations are fully behind that. But there's also a way for yourself basically to group yourself and push for certain actions.
Thank you so much, Barbara. Your points are very well taken and completely agree there. I guess now, if no one else has anything to add, I see, Angela, you've unmuted your microphone.
Oh, have I? Sorry.
If anyone doesn't have anything to add, we would be happy to conclude the webinar. Just to let you know, we're going to be sharing the presentation slides and the recording as well, and the exercise that Angela has prepared. So please feel free to reach out to her if you have any questions or need assistance with the exercise. We will definitely be happy to assist you. Thank you all so much for your time, and yeah, have a very good weekend.
Thank you, Caroline.